Imagine 3 days without eating. Your stomach stopped growling hours ago. Your body is trembling. Your head feels heavy. And then, right when your body hits its limit, something shifts that has nothing to do with hunger at all. It's as if you can suddenly hear something that was always there. Something the noise of your own body wouldn't let you notice before. Moses fasted 40 days and came down a mountain with his face still glowing. Elijah fasted and finally heard God. Not in fire or wind, but in a whisper. Daniel fasted 3 weeks, and an angel told him his very first day had already been heard. Jesus fasted 40 days in the desert and walked out with power. 4 fasts, 4 direct encounters with God. But here's what almost nobody tells you. Modern teaching turned fasting into a transaction. Starve yourself long enough, and God has to answer. According to the Bible itself, that idea isn't just wrong, it's the exact thing God condemns. You are watching Jesus Tell Tales. If truths like this are why you're here, subscribe. And write Isaiah 58 in the comments before you keep going. Go to Isaiah chapter 58. Israel is confused, even offended. They ask God directly, "Why have we fasted?" And you don't even notice. God's answer should stop you cold on the day you fast. He says you chase your own interests and you fight. This is not the fast I have chosen. Notice exactly what he says, not stop fasting. This is not the fast I chose. Which means there's a fast he does honor. So a few verses later, he describes it directly. Is this not the fast I have chosen, to loosen the chains of injustice, to set the oppressed free, to share your food with the hungry? Read that again. God defines fasting, and he never once mentions food. He mentions justice, generosity, freeing people who are stuck. Because the energy you stop spending feeding yourself doesn't just disappear. It becomes available for something bigger than you. The difference between the fast God rejects and the fast he honors has nothing to do with how many days you go without food. It has everything to do with what's happening inside you while you do it. Start with the word itself. In Hebrew, fasting is tsum, and it's rooted in the idea of closing the mouth, not just to stop eating, as a voluntary silence before God. When Joel says, "Return to me with fasting, with weeping, and with mourning," fasting sits right next to grief, not diet. In the New Testament, the Greek word is nesteia, literally. Not eating, simple on the surface, but Paul gives us the real mechanism. In Galatians, walk by the Spirit, and you won't gratify the flesh. Here, the word he uses for flesh isn't about muscles or bones. It sarx, the old, fallen instinct running underneath everything you do. The one shouting, "Feed me, satisfy me, please me right now." The one that opens the fridge when you're anxious, or snaps back the second someone provokes you. Fasting was never primarily about your stomach. It's the one switch God gave you to turn that voice down, so the quieter one underneath it can finally be heard. Watch what happens when Jesus does this in the wilderness. Matthew says after 40 days he was hungry. Not on day 1, not day 10, after 40 days. Hunger finally shows up as the main character. For 40 days, his spirit was so wide awake that his flesh simply faded into the background. And only once the fast ended, once the flesh switched back on, does the tempter show up at all. That's not a coincidence. The tempter doesn't show up on day 20. While the flesh is still quiet, he waits for the exact moment it wakes back up. And the first attack goes straight for the appetite. If you're the Son of God, turn these stones into bread. Jesus answers with one line that carries the whole theology of fasting. Man does not live on bread alone, but on every word from the mouth of God. That's not a slogan, that's a hierarchy, spirit above flesh. And fasting is how you put that order back in place inside yourself. Now look at Daniel, because this cuts against almost everything people assume about fasting. Daniel mourns 3 weeks. He doesn't stop eating completely, He gives up rich food, wine, and comfort layer by layer. After 21 days, a heavenly messenger finally appears and says something that should stop you. Since the first day, you set your heart to gain understanding and humbled yourself. Your words were already heard, the first day, not the 21st. The Hebrew for set your heart is striking. It doesn't just mean he thought about God, it means he handed his heart over. Like laying down an offering. So why the wait at all? The messenger explains, a spiritual opposition held the answer back for those 21 days. Daniel's fasting was never what convinced God to move. God had already moved. The moment Daniel handed his heart over, the fasting held Daniel steady, in position long enough to receive what was already on its way to him. You don't fast to make God listen. You fast so you're finally positioned to hear him back. One more, because it corrects a mistake people make with all of this. Elijah, after his greatest victory, collapses in terror and asks to die. And when God finds him exhausted under a tree, he does not hand him a fasting plan. He feeds him twice, bread, water. Sleep, then bread and water again. Only after Elijah's body is restored does God walk him toward the mountain. 40 days on the strength of that food. A powerful wind tears the mountain apart. God isn't in the wind. An earthquake shakes the ground. God isn't in the earthquake. Fire follows the earthquake. God isn't in the fire either. Then comes a still, small voice, a whisper, and that's where God finally is. Elijah could only hear it once every louder thing inside him had finally gone quiet. His fear, his pride, his exhaustion. Notice the order. God restored him first. Fasting is for a flesh you're choosing to quiet from a place of strength, not a body already collapsing from crisis. So look again at what God actually promises at the end of Isaiah 58. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry out, and he will say, here I am. God doesn't move closer. Because you stopped eating, he was never far to begin with. Fasting doesn't send a signal to heaven saying, look how much I'm suffering. It sends a much simpler signal, my flesh has stopped shouting, and I can finally hear you. It's less like calling out across a distance, and more like a radio that was tuned correctly the entire time, buried under static. Fasting doesn't turn the music on, it just finally turns the static down. If this reshaped how you think about fasting, tell me in the comments which of these 4 stood out to you. Subscribe to Jesus Tell Tales, and we'll see you at the next one.